Reading is an interview with Max Bazerman, who is a professor at Harvard University. You previously read an article by Max that talked about the biases that enter into human judgment processes, and he's one of the major figures in the leadership field, and his most of his work focuses on various kinds of bias issues or information processing issues. Here we're introduced to him as somebody to discuss this concept of first-class noticers, a fairly lousy phrase, but he characterizes people who are as effective leaders are good at noticing relevant information that other people don't notice. And he's talking about what are the kinds of shortcomings people have as decision makers and how leaders differentiate themselves. So in this article, he challenges us as students of leadership to think about how effective leaders go about querying, basically questioning the information that's available, what kind of queries that they make in order to make informed, better decisions. And so that's why he's in this reading and why we're looking at this. There's some things in particular I'd like you to focus on. So, what does it mean when he says kind of questioning available information? And part of it is he kind of walks us through the typical decision maker as kind of as focusing in on what is the information they have. And he says that really good decision leaders actually question that available information, ask is it the right information, and also seek to expand the kind of realm of consideration into things that could go wrong. How could this decision go wrong? And that's kind of a way to open up the field of consideration. He talks about one of the challenges of people having bounded awareness. It is this concept that he introduces, very similar to the notion of bounded rationality that we've talked about with respect to individual decision makers. It is very much on the side of information limitations. So bounded rationality is a behavioral description that says people have two big challenges. They have limited information and they have cognitive capacity. Bounded awareness is in the limited information domain, and basically what he's saying is we have a capacity to question that, to actually perhaps gather more additional information, not just take our limitation for granted. And he has a variety of suggestions for doing that, and I'd like you to pay attention to that kind of relationship to the notion of bounded rationality. He also has, I think, some useful discussion here in how available information can have a tendency to frame decisions that in a way that's not useful. That there's a tendency to take that kind of limited information, make the decision within that framework, and he even has, I think, probably a useful point to make that PowerPoint's way too influential, and it looks it presents information in a way that's more authoritative than it may be. And one of the roles of a leader in decision making is actually to question what's presented, to figure out what the boundaries are of what we're known. And he also has some things where he's really talking about essentially using gut and intuition, and that's also a useful thing. But it's useful in the sense of, again, of querying the information presented. Is that information correct? Does it have the right assumption set? And I think that one of the powers of leadership in decision making is to be the person who queries, to ask questions, to really explore what is we know, what do we need to know, what can we know. these, organizational decisions are still going to be characterized by bounded rationality. There's going to be some information we cannot access, we cannot know, and we still got to make the decision. But Bazerman is suggesting that there's things we can do in the querying process as leaders we don't have to take a bounded rationality as a given, and in this querying process we can kind of broaden people's awareness and potentially make better decisions just by asking questions about the decision that we're making.